why I'm here today is something that I'm passionate about and that I honor Co-op Financial Services for, is to recognize the impact of stress in the workplace, something that healthcare is still lagging behind, and you'll hear a little bit more of my story. The reason I am concerned from the point of view as a physician is if you look at the Center of Disease Control's workplace stress study in 2014, they looked at and followed through employees that were reporting stress and found that 75 to 90% of outpatient doctors' office visits were due to stress-related illnesses. So the majority of the things that are taking us to our outpatient doctor's office visits, other than an annual checkup, are all related to stress. And this whole idea that, doc, the stress is killing me, you would think, well, what is it in the United States in 2014, the finances, relationships? No, it was actually job-related stress, more than 50% of people. Why am I really here today? Because as I continued to go on with this disabling chest pain, I knew something was really wrong. I wasn't handling the stress of the sleep deprivation, seeing patients in the clinic, rounding on the inpatient, doing research, traveling around the country to discuss my research. And the chest pain started to become more and more disabling. And it got to the point that I was waking up in the middle of the night, choking on my own saliva and vomit. We knew something was horribly wrong. And it took a few years to figure out what was going on. And it turns out I have a rare medical disorder known as achalasia. People really don't know why it happens. There's a lot of theories out there. But by the time I got diagnosed, it was so severe, we had to plan for urgent surgery right here in Seattle 7 years ago, almost to this date. And by that time, there were precancerous changes. And as we were going in and the surgeon was discussing things with myself and my parents, I wasn't really even in a consciousness state to understand and comprehend the gravity of the situation. I just so personally overwhelmed, wondering, how did I let my life get to this point? The fact that there's precancerous changes and I was only in my 30s at that point was almost a moot point. I had just wallowed in that dark shame of not managing my stress and thinking that I was all alone and had somehow failed, that I got so lost in that deep and dark pit. And I tell you this today because I welcome you to go back to the workplace. And do you have any colleagues that are walking around with the lights are on and nobody is home? Know that I am shedding light on that dark secret that they may be sharing. So we progress and I get through surgery and they were able to successfully remove the lesions. And it was this wake-up call for me because at that point the surgical plan was, the case of your achalasia is so severe, Romie, we're probably going to need a surgery number 2 and 3 to operate on your entire gastrointestinal system, and do you have good disability insurance? I knew something had to change. And that sent me on a journey around the world to learn literally about what this role of mindfulness and yoga was. I was sitting at home post-op healing, and I finally decided to listen to the aunties who were always telling me to pray and meditate. And at that point, I was in so much pain and so far lost. I would just listen to their stories, and everybody would come with their own, religion or their own prayer practices and their own well wishes, and sit there with me and heal. And I started to notice as I was praying and doing a little bit of yoga that the chest pain was going away, and I didn't need the post-operative pain meds. And then that my mood was starting to lift, and I was lifting out of that dark place. And that's what sent me around the world to better understand various forms of meditation, yoga, Ayurveda. How is it that Eastern healers are keeping their populations healthy under such limited resources compared to what we're blessed with here in the United States? And so then I came back and thinking, well, is this all in my head? And I started to do the research and realized, why did they not teach us this in medical school? I'm a neurologist, and we studied brain science and psychiatry and neuropsychology, that the literature on the impact of mindfulness and meditation dates back to the 1970s. And then when you bring it forward here to the workplace, the concern is even more. I just blanked out the screen here, is that we look at global attitudes and benefits survey, is that when our employees are stressed out, there's a 50% more increased utilization in sick days, and a reduction on average in service-based industries such as yours and mine by 25%. And that, what about engagement? a hot topic always when I'm lecturing at different corporate clients and you've got engagement experts standing there, is that high levels of stress leads to about 50% less in employee engagement. And none of us want to be working in or creating that environment. So what would be my mindful medicine to help you heal stress? This whole concept is that you can't get to know others until we first get to know ourselves. A core principle in mindfulness and mindful leadership.